Welcome to Michigan in Focus. I'm Bruce Walker, Great Lakes Regional Editor for the Center Square. And with me is Tom Ganter, the Center Square Managing Editor. And Tom, we have discussed this before. There's a lot of legislation that is percolating through state legislatures regarding curtailing access to guns, red flag laws, what have you. And there was a state's attorney general, who filed a joint amicus brief along 21. So there's 22 total attorneys general who supporting the federal government prohibition of handguns and ammunition based on age. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Okay, the amicus brief was filed over a case in Louisiana that is saying that the Second and Fifth Amendment, it's a lawsuit involving those amendments, challenging the sale of handguns and ammunition by federal firearm licensees to adults under the age of 21. So, like all gun stories, it's complicated, and this case is involved in Louisiana. So in May, just to make things even muddier, in Virginia, a federal judge ruled that a law banning licensed federal firearm dealers and selling handguns to young adults under 21 violates the Second Amendment and is unconstitutional. That was in May. In March, in Florida, a U.S. appeals court upheld a Florida law that bars people under the age of 21 from buying a gun. So there's a lot of different cases floating around there. This one was involved in Louisiana, which the attorney generals supported. They have basically made three things in terms of what they think is their case is about. The Second Amendment allows governments to enact measures to promote gun safety. Yeah, that's the first one. The other thing was the district court has already ruled against the plaintiff in this case, and they support that. In these instances, generally, it's the Supreme Court that comes in and finally has the final say on all these historically. But in Michigan, the law prohibits the issue of a handgun purchase license to any person under the age of 18. And if the handgun is to be purchased from a federally licensed dealer, the applicant must be 21 years old. So Michigan abides by the federal law that means you can't buy from a federal licensed dealer if you're 18 to 20.
Right. And Michigan is one of 19 states that adheres to that, if I'm not mistaken.
So where do you think this is going to end up?
Your guess is as good as mine. I am not, and I repeat, anything but a Second Amendment scholar. So I wouldn't even know how to begin to argue that. I would have to consult experts in the field on that to see what they say. More than likely will end up at the Supreme Court then, just because everyone I talk to who considers themselves to be an expert on the Second Amendment, I always find a few chinks in their armor, and that's coming from an individual who admits to not knowing much about the Second Amendment. And how about you, Tom? Where do you see this going?
Supreme Court. When these issues pop up and there's like three different cases in three different states and you got conflicting judges making conflicting rulings, that's where I always see it going. It's whoever is the first one to go through the system and make the appeal.
Nobody likes gun violence, and you want to see it curtailed or eliminated entirely. But you have to wonder if these laws that are nibbling at the edges of the root causes for some of the gun violence that we're seeing, especially the explosion of gun violence in places like Chicago, would these laws make any difference in the end result? It's like the laws that were passed in Michigan last month. You have to ask yourself, would this have altered what happened in Oxford? Would this have altered anything that happened on the campus of Michigan State University?
The people who support banning the sale of guns to people under the age of 21 cite data that says that age group is disproportionately high in terms of violent acts. And that's the reasoning behind stopping 18 to 20-year-olds from being able to purchase guns. Now, I will tell you this. I was shocked when I was researching this to find I didn't see one reference to common sense gun laws, which is the term that they throw at everything nowadays. And to me, as soon as I hear that, it just tells me that they don't know the specifics or details. So they just come up with the general cliche to throw at it so they don't have to understand the specifics of what the gun laws are. Gun law, in my dealings with court cases, gun laws are the most complicated. There's a lot of moving parts. And like we know now, it's like there's 3 cases right now where we got conflicting opinions from judges on whether someone under the age of 21 should be able to buy a gun.
Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com. I'm Bruce Walker, Great Lakes Regional Editor for The Center Square. Please subscribe, and thank you for listening.